What's up, everybody? Cruise Collections. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go through an old VHS collection of mine. Wrestling, of course. I know a lot of you people probably don't even know what a VHS is, or you've never seen one in real life, but it's okay because today I'm going to school you. You see, before we had all this streaming technology, we had DVDs, and before that, we had VHSs. And really, nothing hits like VHSs. Nothing hits the same as going to your local video store or even Blockbuster if you were lucky enough to have one and looking for the newest wrestling tapes. And there it was. Actually, when my local shop went out of business, I took it upon myself to make them a generous offer that they could not refuse for all of their wrestling tapes. And I got them all. A lot of them I got rid of over the years. They stopped working. They got destroyed because that was a thing that would happen often with old VHS tapes. But in my later days as an adult, I ended up managing a Blockbuster, and all of their old tapes that would go for sale, of course, if they were wrestling, I was buying them. So I got a pretty good collection that I've accumulated over the years. So yeah, let's get into this. WrestleFest 92 to start it off. We got Macho Man versus IRS on the cover. We got a good little profile view of Bret the Hitman Hart. I remember this one specifically. They followed around through every match. They would do a little interview with them or something. Battle of the Superstars 92. It's been a long time since I watched this one. I remember this one wasn't quite my favorite, but you see, you got Bret Hart versus the Mountie, got some Tatanka action, probably some bushwhackers in there. So it's always still a good time for the 92 era. Super Tape Volume 4, another one, just a classic cover. Anybody that remembers these huge, oversized cardboard boxes, I'm sure it brings back a super feeling of nostalgia. It's what it does for me, and this one really hits that spot. Hulkamania 6. Everybody knows about these early Hulkamania volumes. What can I say? Hulk Hogan doing his thing, hot dogging for the crowd over and over, as the Macho Man would say. Hulkamania Forever, another good one. Some would say was probably the best Hulkamania videotape of that era. Takes on everybody, and of course, you'd be lucky if you were to see Hulk Hogan lose one match, because if it was even an idea, didn't work for him, brother. Battle of the Superstars, the second annual. This one, yeah, you could pretty much guess it's not the greatest when you got Bob Backlund on the cover and Hacksaw Jim Duggan on the back, but it's still that early 90s golden era, so it's got to be good. Super Tape, all right, this is the original. This was when Brutus and Hogan fought Macho Man and was a Zeus. I believe that is on this, so great tape. I love the cover. That's just beautiful. Super Tape Volume 3 with that legendary LOD just pose. That's a classic photo right there. Just a great tape. Look at this thing. I am so glad I got these in my collections and didn't get rid of them. Invasion 92. This is when Ric Flair came. I believe this was the video where Bret Hart took on Ric Flair and actually won the World Championship for the first time. It was included in this video here. Royal Rumble 1991, probably the most iconic video cover of all time. Best promo poster, in my opinion. I would even venture to say best Royal Rumble of all time. This is it. Crunch Classic. You got Earthquake squashing the hell out of somebody on the cover. You got some Roddy Piper action. Looks like they could do a profile on Roddy Piper on this one. So it's another great tape. You know there's probably some Bobby the Brain Heenan in there as well. Rampage 92, you got Warrior on the cover, Tatanka on the side. What are some of the matches? We got Bret versus Shawn, Macho Man versus Arepo, Ultimate Warrior, Papa Shango. Man, great tape. I wish I could watch it. World Tour 92, look at Macho Man doing his thing. Oh, yeah, thinking. We got some good matches on there. I see Shawn Michaels with Sensational Sherry back there. Some El Matador action. Look, and speaking of El Matador, there's Tito Santana himself. This is probably one of my least favorite tapes that I own. Not gonna lie, this was not the greatest, but I'd still rather watch this than anything current. World Tour 1991, you got Ultimate Warrior versus The Undertaker, I believe, was the main event on this one. Looks like you got some Dusty Rhodes versus the $1 Million Man. This is a great tape, one that I'm glad to still have. Bloopers, bleeps, and body slams. This is from that 94 era. A lot of people hate on that 93, 94 era of WWF, but personally, that's when I was really getting into wrestling at my fullest. And like I said, Doink the Clown would beat anybody today. Smack 'em and whack 'em. Looks like we got Bret Hart maybe versus Shawn Michaels in this one. Yeah, we do. We got Crush in there. I hope it's Evil Crush. Got some Yokozuna. Got everybody, all the greats. WrestleMania 10. One of the best WrestleManias, in my opinion. Again, gets a lot of hate, but you got that classic ladder match. Even the Luger versus Yokozuna match was great for me. I love this WrestleMania. I love this era. The history of WrestleMania. This video speaks for itself. It was made in, I think, like around 93. So it's covering most of the main things that happened at WrestleMania between the beginning and this point in time. Royal Rumble 94, another one of my favorites. A lot of silly wrestlers in this. I had a lot of gimmicks during this point, as you can see. But man, gimmick wrestlers were just the key to wrestling. And another great cover, especially for a Royal Rumble. Grudges, Gripes, and Grunts. This was a pretty good tape. I remember I watched this one a lot of times. Don't remember all of the matches on it, but I remember popping this tape in at least once a month to watch it because it was just that good. Invasion of the Body Slammers, another one. I feel like this one might have had Crush in there, had a little Crush profile. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I'm thinking of another one. I think it's Global Warfare. Anyways, still a great tape. Look at it. It's got a little Kamala profile. Oh, yeah, you know this one, WrestleMania 6. This is when the greatest powers in wrestling both met. You had Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior, and we all know how that went. Warrior. WrestleMania 9. I love this WrestleMania. Some people say this is the worst WrestleMania ever. I love it. I love the whole theme. I love that it was outdoors. I even like Giant Gonzalez versus The Undertaker. Great video. Judgment Day. I think this was 2001-ish. I could be wrong. Maybe like 99. Got Undertaker versus Kane. So you know this was good. It's early days, Undertaker and Kane. Looks like Stone Cold's in there. WrestleMania 13, I think we had Psycho Sid versus The Undertaker in this one. We had that classic Stone Cold versus Bret Hart match where Stone Cold bled out like a stuffed pig because he would not give up. Ken Shamrock had to lay the smack down. WrestleMania 11. This is when Shawn Michaels really started to step up his game and prove that he was the guy. Other than that, it wasn't the greatest. I think we had Backlund versus Bret Hart. WrestleFest 96, this is when Shawn Michaels was trying to creep on Diana, trying to steal Davey Boy's girl. Davey Boy didn't appreciate it, and he was out to settle the score and prove his point that he was the man. SummerSlam, I think this was 99-ish era. Look who we got. We got The Rock versus Triple H versus Kurt Angle, another Undertaker versus Kane, Chris Bleep versus Chris Jericho. We can't say his name. Don't talk about him. We got Armageddon. This was a pretty badass cover as well. I think it was like, that's a lot. They got a huge match there. That's when Rikishi was doing his thing when he was doing it for The Rock, maybe. SummerSlam, was this 2001, I believe? Is this when he faced Brock Lesnar? No, I believe that was King of the Ring. I'm getting confused. It's been a while since I've watched all these. Looks like a great tape though. Rebellion. This took place in another country, like Britain or something. Still good show. I remember this tape pretty well. I'm gonna have to get my VHS player out and give these a watch. Royal Rumble 93, another great one. We had that Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon match. One of my personal favorite matches, just for a nostalgic reason. Probably wasn't the greatest match ever, but just look at that cover. That's beautiful. King of the Ring. Here we go. This is when Hogan had to reappear in the WWF and sneak his way back into getting that title off Bret Hart without beating Bret Hart, because that was the only thing that worked for him was being the champion. Survivor Series. This is when Ultimate Warrior flaked out and bounced because Vince didn't want to pay him, so they had to get Mr. Perfect to step in to be Macho Man's partner. I could just imagine what it'd have been if it was Ultimate Maniacs. Fully Loaded. Who do we got here? We got some Rock versus Chris Benoit. I can't say his name. Triple H versus Chris Jericho. We got Undertaker on the cover. Got The Rock giving that eyebrow. No Mercy. Is this one Stone Cold fought Rikishi after he did it for The Rock? Yep, that's it. Is this the one where he threw him off the top and he landed in that big bale of hay or whatever on the back of the truck? Can't remember. Backlash. This has got to be 2001, 2002 era. Looks like this is when Brock was around, so you know there was some stuff going down. We got Hogan fought Triple H at this pay-per-view, I believe. Then we got No Way Out. This is when the NWO returned, when they were merging WCW and WWE at the time. No, it was still F. Look, there's the F. They ain't got the F out yet. So there it is, No Way Out. Insurrection. This was another pay-per-view, I believe, took place in another country, not in America. London, England is where it took place. 2002. Got a good set of roster on that one. Now we're into some WCW stuff. We got Slapnuts versus the Psycho Sid. This is WCW stuff. You can imagine what it was, especially around this era. They were still doing pretty good, but not their best work. And this is the Starrcade event where this is the reason Bret Hart hates Bill Goldberg right here. And I've got the actual thing on tape. This is the original thing. You guys got your streaming. I got the original. I need to have Bret sign this, and Goldberg. Sold out. This is where Goldberg and Scott Hall faced each other. I can't remember who won this one. I was thinking it was Kevin Nash he was fighting, but maybe not. DDP versus Kevin Nash at Slamboree. Haven't watched these in a very long time. I might have to get back on the old streaming to catch up on some of these pay-per-views so that I can be reminded of what took place. I remember this one, Starrcade 94. This was one of the first wrestling tapes that I owned that was WCW. Just a awesome tape. Look at that cover right there. Hogan looking scrawny. World War III. What a terrible looking cover. Terrible. WCW didn't put much work into their artwork on their covers. I could tell you that much. They had some good wrestlers and some good matches from time to time, but man, that box looks pretty good. That one's shining too. Stampede. This is probably 2001-ish. Who do we got there? Booker T versus Scott Steiner. That's not bad. See Big Papa Pump versus the Booker Man. Slamboree. This one was terrible. Is this the one where they had David Arquette come in and win the belt? Slamboree. I see that big cage in the back. I was not a fan at all of that oversized cage. And I don't like Jeff Jarrett either. Super Brawl 5. This is when Hulk Hogan fought Vader. I love this. I love how ruthless and just raw Vader was during this period. And he made it seem so real. Vader's the man. Bash at the Beach. Looks like we got Sid versus Sting. What can I say about this one? A boxing match. Who's that? Buff Bagwell versus somebody? I don't know about that. That sounds pretty bad. You can see it right there. Ooh, Great American Bash. We got the Macho Man versus Kevin Nash. Yeah. That seems like it'd be a pretty good match that I might have to go back and watch, see how that one ended up. We got Bam Bam on there too. Halloween Havoc, maybe one of the biggest disappointments in WCW history when the Ultimate Warrior came back and they had this terrible match at Halloween Havoc. But I'll give it to them. The whole theme for the Halloween thing was doing it for me. Road Wild. Oh man, I remember in the early Road Wild days. Isn't that when they had like the fights in the back of the truck? I think they did have like a bunkhouse brawl or something. Stupid. So stupid. Fan favorites. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what the favorites look like. Was never a favorite of the fan favorite tapes, but I'll watch it if I had to. If it was nothing else new on the shelf, then I was going to pick it up. And for probably $2, I bought it. Another Insurrection. We got a WWF that must have slipped through the cracks earlier. I tried to keep them in order, but this is it right here. I believe that would be the last of the WWF tapes. There's a Super Brawl 2000 with Sid on the cover. Not a bad looking cover. Not bad. Hulk Hogan versus Total Package. Ric Flair versus Terry Funk. Whew, I bet that one was a stinker. Bet that was bad. What's this? An NWO tape. Superstar Series. NWO for life. You know what I'm saying? You got to go for life. I'm still NWO. Still to this day, I got the shirts upstairs. Sold out. This show probably sold out, but it probably didn't have much action to it. I think this was during the era when it was really starting to fall apart. When you got Bagwell and DDP on the cover, Stranglemania 2. For anybody who doesn't know about this is a funny video. Insane Clown Posse does the voiceovers on it. They do all the commentary on it. And these are some hardcore matches that I'm not normally a fan of, but they made it funny. Uncensored, we got Flair versus Hogan. NWO Hogan versus Flair. Booker T versus Steiner again. Jericho versus Saturn. Overall, it looks like a pretty good pay-per-view. Haven't watched it in quite a while. All right, and that pretty much wraps it up. That is it for Cruise Collections Wrestling VHS Collection. I do have a lot of DVDs as well. Unfortunately, it got to a point in time that I just had so many that I didn't have space to keep all these cases. So what I ended up doing was I took all the inserts out, I cut them up real nice and square to where they would fit inside a DVD binder, tucked them all in there. So now I got about 2 or 3 full DVD binders just slapped full of wrestling DVDs. Maybe I'll show them at some point. Kind of depends on how this video goes. But I got lots to show. I got wrestling comics. I got wrestling magazines. I got tons of wrestling action figures. We ain't even getting into them yet. So if you like this video, give me a like. Subscribe if you want to see more. And check out these videos here that I'm going to put up on the screen, like right in this area or maybe that area. We'll figure it out later. But take a look at them. Let me know what you think about the tapes. Which one was your favorite? Which one was your worst? What do you think about these pay-per-views? What do you think about my taste in wrestling and what my opinions were? Let me know. I want to hear from you. Until the next video, I'll catch y'all later.